Before we begin, if you are enjoying the World Cup content on LSRA 10, please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our World Cup previews. Also, let me know your prediction in the comments because this one could genuinely go either way. Now, let's get into it. When the World Cup round of 16 draw was made, this wasn't necessarily the fixture that grabbed all the headlines, but the more you look at it, the more fascinating it becomes. It's USA versus Belgium. One team is playing at home, packed by an incredible crowd and a riding wave of confidence. The other one has the most experienced squads left in the tournament, packed with players who have been through these moments before. The last time these two nations met in a World Cup knockout match was back in 2014. It was one of the most unforgettable round of 16 games we have ever seen. Tim Howard produced arguably one of the greatest goalkeeping performances in World Cup history with 16 saves, yet Belgium still found a way to win 2-1 after extra time. 12 years later, the USA finally have a chance for revenge. Can Mauricio Pochettino's side make the quarterfinals for the first time since 2002? Or will Belgium's experience once again prove too much? Let's talk about it. Let's start with the United States because they've quietly become one of the stories of the tournament. Coming into the World Cup, expectations were high because they were one of the co-hosts, but nobody really knew how far they could go. So far, they've answered almost every question. They opened the tournament with a convincing 4-way win over Paraguay, followed that up with a solid 2-0 win over Australia, and although they lost 3-2 to Turkey, qualification had already been secured and there were several changes to the team. Then came the biggest result, a 2-0 victory over Bosnia in the round of 32. That wasn't just another knockout win. It was the United States' first World Cup knockout victory since 2002. Think about that for a second. An entire generation of American football fans had never seen their national team win a World Cup knockout match. Now they are just one victory away from reaching the quarterfinals for the first time in 24 years. That alone tells you how big of a game this is. But here's where things become complicated. The biggest talking point for USA isn't actually their form, it's the absence of Florian Balogun. He scored again against Bosnia, taking his tally to 3 goals in the tournament, but later received a red card that now rules him out of this match. That's a huge loss. He's been the main striker for the team, their leading scorer, and the focal point of the attack throughout this World Cup. Replacing goals is never easy. However, I don't think this suddenly transforms the USA into a defensive team. One thing we have seen consistently so far under Mauricio Pochettino is that this side plays with courage. They press high, they attack early, they try to dictate the tempo instead of simply reacting to opponents. That identity shouldn't disappear just because one player is unavailable. Whether it's Ricardo Pepi or Haji Wright who comes into the starting lineup, the system remains the same. The USA will look to play on the front foot. Another massive boost is the return of Christian Pulisic. After dealing with a calf issue earlier in the tournament, he's back and looking sharp again. With Balogun missing, even more responsibility falls on Pulisic's shoulders. He's the captain, he's the leader, and in games like this, you need your biggest players to produce. Alongside him, players like Malik Tillman, Weston McKennie, and Tyler Adams have played important roles in this tournament. Tillman, in particular, has been one of the standout performers, while Adams continues to provide balance to the midfield. The United States don't rely on one superstar, they rely on energy, pressing, and collective organization. That's what's brought this team so far. Mauricio Pochettino also deserves a lot of credit. This team looks completely different compared to the previous tournaments. There's belief, there's intensity, there's confidence. Winning your group for the first time since 2010 isn't easy. Following that win with your first knockout win in over 2 decades shows genuine progression. This isn't a team that is simply happy to be here anymore. They genuinely believe they can beat anyone. Now let's switch over to Belgium. Because while the USA have momentum, Belgium probably still have the stronger squad on paper. When you look through their lineup, there are experienced players everywhere. Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku, Thibaut Courtois, Jeremy Doku, Leandro Trossard. These players who have performed on the biggest stages in the footballing world for years. And perhaps that's Belgium's greatest strength. Experience. This golden generation may be reaching the final chapter together, but they've still got enough quality to beat almost anyone on their day. Belgium's journey to this point has been very different from the USA's. They didn't exactly storm through the tournament. They opened with draws against Egypt and Iran before finally finding their rhythm with a convincing 5-1 win over New Zealand. Then comes one of the craziest matches of the round of 32. Belgium were 2-0 down against Senegal with just minutes remaining. At that point, most people thought they were heading home. Instead, they somehow found a way back. Romelu Lukaku pulled one back. Yuri Tielemans equalized. Then, in extra time, Belgium completed an incredible comeback to win 3-2. It showed enormous character, but at the same time, it also raised questions because for long periods of that game, Belgium simply weren't at their best. Against a high energy USA side, can they afford another slow start? That's actually one of the most interesting tactical battles in this match. The USA tend to start games aggressively. They press high, they try to score early. Belgium, on the other hand, have often grown into matches. They rely on moments of quality rather than controlling every minute. If the USA can start early again and get the crowd involved, Belgium could find themselves under real pressure. Seattle is going to be absolutely rocking, and the home support generally matters in knockout football. Momentum can change everything. Of course, Belgium have players capable of silencing any stadium. Kevin De Bruyne remains one of the best midfielders in world football, and when he's not dominating matches, he only needs one pass to change everything. Romelu Lukaku has already shown once again that he can deliver in big moments. Leandro Trossard has been quietly one of Belgium's most consistent attackers throughout this tournament, and Jeremy Doku's pace can cause problems for any defense. That's why Belgium are still so dangerous. Even if they aren't playing brilliantly, they possess the match winners all over the pitch. But here's the thing, for the first time in a long time, Belgium don't feel unbeatable. Several of their performances have been far from convincing. They needed an extraordinary comeback to eliminate Senegal. They looked vulnerable defensively. They have had periods where opponents have created plenty of chances against them. That's probably why opinions on this game are so divided. Some people believe Belgium's quality will eventually shine through. Others believe that this is exactly the right moment for USA to take advantage. Honestly, I can understand both arguments. Then there's the history between these two nations. As I mentioned earlier, everyone remembers 2014. Tim Howard making save after save, Belgium attacking relentlessly. Eventually, De Bruyne and Lukaku finding the breakthrough in extra time. It remains one of the most memorable World Cup knockout games of the modern era. Interestingly, Belgium still have several players from that match. Courtois, Lukaku, De Bruyne. They have experienced this fixture before. The USA, meanwhile, are almost an entirely new generation. For them, this isn't about leveling 2014, it's about creating their own World Cup memory. One thing I also think is worth mentioning is fatigue. Belgium needed extra time against Senegal. The USA didn't. At this stage of the tournament, little details like that can become significant. 90 extra minutes over the course of a week isn't nothing, especially against a team that presses aggressively as the United States. If this game remains level heading into the final 20 minutes, I actually think the Americans could have this physical advantage. So, what kind of match am I expecting? Honestly, I don't think either team completely dominates. I think the USA will come flying out of the blocks. I think they will press high. I think the crowd will give them enormous energy. Belgium, meanwhile, will try to slow things down. They rely on experienced players to take control when the game settles. There will be moments for both sides. I don't see either defense keeping a clean sheet. This feels like one of those knockout matches where momentum constantly swings from one team to another. Now comes the difficult part, the prediction. If you ask me purely based on individual quality, it'd probably be Belgium. I genuinely think that they have the better squad, the more experienced squad, and probably more players capable of deciding a game on their own. But football isn't played on paper. And when I look at everything surrounding this match, I just have one feeling. The USA have home ground. They have built an incredible momentum. Pochettino has this team firing. Belgium haven't convinced me defensively. They've already played 120 exhausting minutes. And while Bologan's suspension is a huge blow, I don't think it completely changes the identity of this American team. I think they will attack. I think they will create chances. And I think they will get their revenge for what happened 12 years ago. So my prediction is USA 2, Belgium 1. I think it'll be another dramatic knockout game. I think Belgium will make the USA work incredibly hard. But this time, I think the Americans find a way through. And if that happens, it would undoubtedly be one of the biggest wins in modern US football history. But that's just my opinion. What do you think about it? Will Belgium's experience prove decisive once again, or will the USA ride the home crowd all the way into the World Cup quarterfinals? Let me know your predictions in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, subscribe to LSR10, and I'll see you in the future with another World Cup preview. Bye bye.